This is Real Deal Sports Talk with KP.
That man Brandon, the damn rambling amateur. I ain't a fan of his, motherfucker faker than mannequins. That dude Kellen be acting harder than city felons, but he really jealous and niggas softer than Cinderella.
Hating ass nigga.
Wow, alright. Damn, I wonder what niggas stop hating. I guess it's been ingrained since Cain dropped Abel. It's not a fable, these niggas is looking foul, flagrant. You could tell from a mile away that my style waving. Bitches staring in amazement like they were stargazing. Your broad return with a sword, John, cigar fragrance. I played the cards I was dealt, the faces is all aces. The irony of a fallen angel is God's favorite. Yeah, my whole persona so abrasive. I'm ice cold like being frozen in cryostasis. I'm thaw raising, my written verses is all raises. Who else you know who can spit it hard with a suave cadence? Yeah, it's half man.
And welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. It is August 6th, 2018. How's everybody doing today? Beginning of the week. I hope everybody's doing good. We went back to work today. We were productive. We put a smile on somebody's face. We enjoy sports. We're off work now. It is time to catch up on our baseball, on our golf, our racing, our football, our basketball, our off-season trades, our predictions, our fantasy leagues, our drafts are coming up. All of this stuff, it's that time of year when, yes, now there is more on the sports plate. We are back to football. Preseason football this week. We have the third annual Fantasy Football League for Real Deal Sports Talk with KP coming up. KP Showdown. All the information on the website at realdealsportstalkwithkp.com. There's a link to the league there. Our league ID 6164249 is there, and the league password, all capital letters, One Pride, can also be found on the website. So there's that going on. We had the Hall of Fame game, the Hall of Fame ceremony since the last time we spoke. We're going to do our AFC South predictions this time. We've already done our NFC South predictions a couple shows ago. We got our AFC South this week. A couple other sports stories we'll try and get to as well. We'll see how time works out that way. But let's go ahead and start off with the Hall of Fame game and the ceremony. Some of my takeaways from this weekend, from the game, from the speeches, from Terrell Owens, from Robert Brazil, Jerry Kramer, all the guys really. I single out Terrell Owens, obviously, because he had a separate thing that he was involved in, a separate weekend he was involved in. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But the game itself, let's start with the game. Obviously, this was not great football. We didn't see most of the starters on offense. We didn't see most of the starters on defense for either team. Now, I was a little surprised that Lamar Jackson was the last quarterback that Baltimore put in, but I'm not surprised with the amount of time that he got. He looked like a rookie. I mean, let's face it. They tried to mix in some stuff he was good at. The defense tried to force him into some situations and were able to. He was somewhat inaccurate depending on the throw. Instinct, it looked like initially, was for him to just take off and run, especially that first series. I wasn't thrilled by any means. I wasn't completely disappointed. It would have been, a great story for him to have gone off, either, run for some big play or had some big giant completion. He had the touchdown to the rookie tight end whose name is escaping me right now. That was good. The helmet rule, I'm sorry, clearly officiating this new helmet rule is going to be a major issue. I hope the ref that they had there at the game, who theorized that they've been told to basically throw the flag as much as possible. Let's gather all of this data, and then come out week one. Here's what we want you guys to do. doesn't give the officials much time to practice, calling this rule, if that's really what does happen. Because there were more than one time where the safety or whoever was making the tackle was making a good football tackle. You can't be safer than that. It can't be a personal foul. Or it's not a joke that we're going to turn into flag football. That's just going to happen. Because that's as clean as some of those hits are ever going to be. Unless you're going to say, sorry, you can now only tackle, chasing them from behind, and you have to trip them? I mean, then what does that turn into once somebody, jerks their head falling to the ground? So we'll see how this is going to turn out. I've read what the league is saying, how to call it, whether or not it's a foul. Okay, great. You're still expecting every person to see it the same way. And then not overrule it if they didn't see it. Not every play can go to instant replay. The refs can get help from New York. I mean, it's just an impossible situation. Your instinct when you're going to get hit as a ball carrier is to protect yourself. So you start to cover up. You don't stay up in a full run sprint position when you're about to get blown up. You want to absorb the hit. You want to make yourself as small as possible to try and deliver some impact back and possibly run through the situation. Now, as a defender, you're trying to hit where that guy is as a runner. Because if you try and hit where he's going to be as he comes small, then it might look like you're targeting his legs, trying to take out his knees. All of a sudden, you're getting a reputation. You might hurt somebody that way, actually. More than likely, you have the likelihood of hurting somebody if you start aiming where you think they're going to be small and start taking out knees sideways. So guys, don't do that. You try and put your face mask on the ball. You try and lead with your shoulder so you can drive through. The game moves at a very high speed. Stuff's going to happen. So this rule, after game one, in a game where you didn't see the starters, you didn't see the big dogs flying around, you didn't see full speed regular season playoff or Super Bowl speed type action, that's going to be real tough for defenders. We didn't see a lot called on offensive players. For them, coming down, running backs, dropping the shoulder, head makes contact first. I don't like it. I want the guys to be safe. I want them to have long careers. I want them to get as much enjoyment and money and everything they can out of the game. Entertainment, fandom, networking, opportunities, what have you. But we can't make the game what it's not. That's why we're seeing guys like Sendejo wear a hat that says, make football violent again. Because you're making it impossible to play the game, even though you're trying to make it safer for the guys playing the game. It's going to be a fine line. We'll have to see how the game continues to evolve, where these rules continue to go. The kickoff stance. So it's going to be tough. The Ravens win this game 17-16 over the Bears. Yes, we're talking about the Hall of Fame game still. And, again, mostly I'm just glad football's back. It was good to see the top players-ish out there competing. Some of the rookies, seeing how they were going to play. I told you I wanted to see Orlando Brown. He did pretty good there at the right tackle position. Still has, I think, some NFL strength to put on. And maybe a little bit of footwork to keep those guys that end a little bit wider out on those pass rushes, because some of those routes were a little narrow. But it was fun to watch it. It was fun to see Lamar Jackson get some action. RG3 looked good on that first drive for the most part. So it is what it is. It's the Hall of Fame game. It's an extra preseason game for these two. Their real first preseason game where you get a starter in for a series or a few plays is going to be their next one. Now, of course, then after the game came the ceremony on Saturday. Now, there was two ceremonies on Saturday. There was the ceremony that took place at the Hall of Fame, and there was the ceremony that took place at Tennessee Chattanooga. We're going to talk about both because they both deserve their equal time. I mean, let's face it, Terrell Owens still is arguably the second best receiver of all time, maybe the third best receiver of all time. It's him, Randy Moss, and Jerry Rice. Randy Moss went in this time as a first ballot guy, and we all know Terrell Owens did not go in as a first ballot guy. But takeaways from the ceremony at the Hall of Fame. Ray Lewis, second longest speech in the history, 33 minutes, only second to Brett Favre, 36 minutes. Now, for me, I stopped watching all of the speeches in their entirety probably 10 years ago. I watch the highlights, I read the reports, but it's so long, and it seems like, as a fan, what's more interesting to see and what should probably be televised if the guys were okay with it, and I would not put this to the Hall of Fame, I would put this to the Hall of Famers, would be the dinner that takes place on Friday night when they're all introduced and the jackets are given to them and that kind of thing. Because there's more fun, and the highlights you see from that just seem, as a fan, more awe-inspiring and wowing than seeing them all sit up there on the stage. They wave as they're introduced, go through 4 hours of speeches. You're probably there to see one guy, and it's slow and drawn out, and some of the speeches have some good moments, but mostly is what it is. I also think the game and the ceremony should be on the same day. I don't like the game on Thursday night. The game was better on Saturday or Sunday, the way I remember it being when I was younger. And maybe do the game like a Friday Night Lights type thing with the banquet earlier in the day and the speeches and all that. Make it a hoopla type thing instead of trying to draw it out into these separate events. I don't know. Something could be changed about it. But Ray Lewis, he has the 33-minute speech. Not as long as I expected, honestly. Not as long as many people joked he would go about. But I liked how he talked about we all need to love a little more and care a little more and take care of each other a little more. I liked that part. I don't know. Jonathan Ogden, I asked your brother when I talked to him the other day, Marcus, I said, what's up with Jonathan in the dance? He said, I'm a better dancer than my brother, don't worry about it. I said, all right now. Because that was not pretty for the big man up there as he joined Ray Lewis to do his sack dance. But good speech for Ray Lewis. A lot of people wanted to bring up the incident in 2000 with the Super Bowl, and rightfully so. It is part of his story. It's unfortunate that has to be tied to this type of event, and they couldn't just focus on the numbers, which is something we're going to talk about here in a minute with Terrell Owens. But they didn't just focus on the numbers with Ray Lewis. A lot of people brought up the murder, and that is kind of a black spot on his career and always will be. Maybe that's why he works so hard now to help other people. I don't know. I mean, the only people who really know what happened that night were there that night. So it's not for me to judge. That's not what the Hall of Fame's about. It's what you're supposed to be doing on the field, how you affected the game of football, your position among the all-time greats. And his position is pretty freaking good, along with Jonathan Ogden, who came in the same draft class. Ozzie Newsome struck gold there with 2 Hall of Famers, so that's pretty special. Brian Dawkins probably had the best entrance as he came out as the Wolverine, as he used to do as a player. Big motivational speech. Thanked the Philly fans. You could tell he was relating with everybody. Super emotional. Forgot to mention the team he finished playing with, the Denver Broncos. Talked about it the next day. Apologized. He still lives in Colorado. He recently was coaching high school football at Valor Christian not too long ago. So that just goes to show sometimes with the emotion and everything that's going on, you mean to mention everybody. You mean to get to everybody who is important and who helped you get there and who was part of the journey. And then sometimes you can't. You miss that out. And as much as you wish you would have in the moment, and maybe the Broncos fans wish he would have in the moment, it doesn't take away from his time in Denver, which was short. He is a Philadelphia Eagle, but still successful here in Denver, helped turn that defense around, brought great leadership wherever he went. And his story that came out about his struggle with alcohol and anger and how he dealt with that and how his wife saved him, that's an amazing story. I'd love to talk to him about it. If he hears this, Mr. Dawkins, Mr. Hall of Famer Dawkins, love to have you on the show. It's a topic that Real Deal Sports Talk with KP has dealt with a few times, and we hold personal and dear to us. We do have the Get Help section on our website, so if you have sexual abuse or addiction or suicidal thoughts, there's numbers and information there for you to reach out, get help. You're always able to reach out to us at the show, to me, through social media, through our email, the text line. If you need help, get help. Brian was able to get that help. His wife was able to help him become a better man and a stronger man and deal with that and overcome it. And it's a great story, something a lot of people I didn't know about. It seems like a lot of people in the media and that have interviewed him or known him throughout the years didn't know about. So that was interesting. I think very forthcoming. I'm very pleased and happy that more of these athletes are coming out and sharing their experiences and showing that it's not just, regular people that deal with this. Everybody deals with this from all levels, from all walks of life. So I commend him for being brave and sharing his story about that. And again, probably the most passion I think came from Brian Dawkins. Ray Lewis, inspirational speech. Brian Dawkins, inspirational, but a little more passion. I like the way he brought it. Jerry Kramer, great speech. Another guy, like I said, he probably should have been in a long time ago for what he was for those Packers teams, playing guard. The championships that he won, and again, the teams that he was on. That in itself makes him a Hall of Famer. As a Lions fan, I think Jerry Kramer is one of the all-time greats, and he's a Packer. Like, real talk. I was a little surprised over the years that he kept not getting in when I would see him on the ballot, because I kept picking him. You can go on the website and you fill out who do you think is going to get through, and each year they do something like that. Every year I thought he was going to get through, and he didn't. So his speech, him talking about the Packers and just seeing some real history of the game up there, that was really cool. And probably the thing that stole it from me from the actual Hall of Fame ceremony side was Randy Moss's bust and tie. I love that his bust is one that has the cornrows. I love that his bust looks like him from most angles, where Ray Lewis's bust, I saw one angle in lighting where it kind of looked like a young Ray Lewis, but mostly it doesn't look like Ray Lewis. So Randy's bust looks good. I like the hairstyle they went with. It would have been cool, like in the little montage, had they gone with the picture that he brought and unfolded out of his pocket where he had the big fro. That would have been spectacular. I would have loved to seen that. The Hall of Fame is still a bucket list item for me. I need to get there and see it. it would have been awesome to see that bust when I finally get the chance. But nonetheless, great bust. And then his tie. His son introduced him, that was cool. But his tie, paying homage to all of the families that have lost sons and fathers and family members to police violence and injustice. That was awesome. That would not have happened, I don't think, if it weren't for the groundwork and all of the hours and time that a guy like Colin Kaepernick has put in and sacrificed to not just have it be another news story and another statistic, but to have people wake up to it, to have it be the thing that's flooding our social media feeds, to have more and more people, at least right now, paying attention enough to videotape it. Hopefully that turns into paying enough attention to do something right about it. Like, let's keep this evolving. First we had a couple here and there. Now we have more and more people willing to videotape it, willing to go to the protests, willing to go to the marches, willing to put that on their social media and report about it. Now we need more of those people to be standing up and doing something about it. Like Ray Lewis said, we need more love. We need to be taking care of each other. We don't need to be divided. But justice for all is justice for all, not justice for who I think should get it based on what my current belief system is. Your current belief system for all of the different groups in this country does not represent all, is not how all should be. We all have a choice. So I love that Randy put those names on his tie and gave those people yet again a voice where they weren't given one by law enforcement. So those were my takeaways from the Hall of Fame ceremony. The big ones anyway, the ones that stood out. And the Hall of Fame game. Now, Terrell Owens weekend. This one controversial. I'm on record. I think he could have done all of this same stuff and still been at the Hall of Fame ceremony. I think he could have given the same speech at the Hall of Fame ceremony. I don't care about appeasing the Hall of Fame. I don't care about making the voters who 100% did not put him in the first time because they did not like his character. They did not like the entertainment that he brought and what they then equated that to as his character. Because unless you know him personally, you don't know Terrell Owens. I don't think any of us know Terrell Owens outside of he's in very good shape and he likes to put on a show. Now, throughout the years, we've seen various interviews about his upcoming, about his grandmother, about being poor, about not getting opportunities, about finally getting that chance at Tennessee Chattanooga, about all the people who have doubted him and berated him and tried to keep him down and said negative stuff and didn't look at Terrell Owens, didn't get to know Terrell Owens, didn't give him credit for the good things he was doing or what he was accomplishing, but wanted to focus on what they didn't like about him. So I get where he's coming from. I get why he's mad at the voters and why he thinks that doesn't align with the Hall of Fame and what their thing is about. Okay? That makes sense. But missing out, you see the videos, the behind the scenes stuff of the new guys joining the current members and them cutting it up and getting to know each other and the relationships that were formed. Like this week on the radio, Alfred Williams here in Denver was saying that Terrell Owens was in the right and he needed to do by him. But then at the same time, he goes on to tell a story. Well, they were talking about Tony Dungy and how Tony Dungy was asked about what he thought and how he thought Terrell Owens was going to miss out and his family was going to miss out, and he didn't understand what he was missing. And Alfred was like, blah, blah, blah. But then he went on to tell a story about he's friends now with a guy who he only would have been friends with had he gone to his college Hall of Fame induction. Because that's where he got to know him, and that's where they became friends. And now every time their teams play each other, they call, and it's like, where are we going at? Where are we going to watch it? And they have this bond now that he only got by being there. So on one hand, he's dismissing, saying that's important, but then telling a story about how important that is. And that's why I agree with Tony Dungy. That's what I think Terrell Owens missed by doing this separate thing this weekend. He missed out on that aspect by joining the greatest team there is. By being around those guys and have those guys welcome him in. Not the Hall of Fame, not the voters, not Dan Fouts, not all the people who get to decide. First ballot, second ballot, third ballot, Jerry Kramer, Robert Brazil, many ballots later. But missing out on those guys. And I think his speech was great. But how much more powerful would it have been if he gave that exact same speech on the Hall of Fame stage? Made it a little bit longer. And like I said, talked about how he overcame that. And the good that he's doing. I mean, look at the other things that happened this weekend that he did. Taking the kids on the shopping spree at Dick's Sporting Goods. The Alzheimer awareness honoring him this weekend. His tryout for the Canadian Football League. Throw that in there as well. It was a great weekend. He had a great speech. The people who cared about him were there. And there was a lot. If you looked at it, it was a packed house. There was a lot of people who came to see his speech. Media-wise, friends-wise, former players, family. I'm sure people from, the Tennessee Chattanooga community. I just wish the narrative about Terrell Owens at this point didn't have to be that he's this team buster. I wish the impact from that speech would have been on that crowd at the Hall of Fame. I wish there wasn't this report coming out that the Hall of Fame's considering making a Terrell Owens rule that unless you're willing to come, you don't get to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, that's a bunch of bull. That's not, I'm taking my ball and going home. Are you the Hall of Fame? Are you vindictive, grudge-holding little kids? Like, that's where it finally got petty for me. A lot of people have been saying the Hall of Fame is being petty by not having an homage to Terrell Owens during the ceremony on Saturday. He was in all of the marketing. He had a video piece during the Hall of Fame game. His name was not omitted in any way. They just didn't give time to go up there and talk about his stats and that he was part of it at the ceremony. He wasn't there. That wasn't petty to me. But this idea that's being floated or rumored out there, that they might develop a rule and name it after him, that unless you sign on to actually come to the Hall of Fame, you can't be voted in. That's going to lose all respect, and they will have made his point for him, about how messed up the voting process is and how it's not voting on the standards of being a Hall of Famer, but on, do we like this guy? Which is not right. So let's hope that's not the route they decide to go. All right, we spent a lot of time on that. Got a little long-winded there. I support Terrell Owens' stance. I just wish and think it would have been more powerful had he done the same thing at the ceremony. Anyway. Still could have done the thing at Tennessee Chattanooga, been down there, been like, hey, you guys are great. Wah, wah, party, let's do the thing, take the kids shopping. Now I'm going to go up. I'm going to hang out with the Hall of Famers, do this, meet my guys, whatever. AFC South. AFC South last year on offense, in the division, went as follows. Jacksonville won it at 10-6, Tennessee 9-7, Houston and Indianapolis both finished at 4-12. Houston kind of fell off after their rookie quarterback Deshaun Watson got hurt. Could be similar this year as far as the standings in the division go. Their rankings, we all know how good Jacksonville was on defense. Looking at their rankings, Jacksonville on offense was a 6th-ranked offense in the league. That's why they were able to make that jump, that physical offensive running game, that defense scoring points so that Bortles didn't have to be the guy. It really put them over the top with their top-ranked defense as well. Houston at 20, obviously they fell down a little bit after Watson got hurt. Tennessee at 23, and then Indianapolis came in at 31. On the defensive side of the ball, Jacksonville was the 2nd-ranked defense in the NFL. Tennessee was 13th, Houston at 20th, and Indianapolis came in at 30th. Those rankings probably, I see them being similar this year. Those teams falling around the same ranges as far as their NFL level. Tennessee. Arrivals and departures as far as free agency from Tennessee. We have they re-signed 4 of their own guys. Ryan Suckup probably being the best one of the bunch. The other ones, Josh Klein, he'll probably start again for him, or at least be a rotational guy. David King, 2nd-year guy, and Daquan Jones. They bring in Malcolm Butler. They bring in Blaine Gabbert, who's a better backup to Marcus Mariota. You don't have to have different offenses. Dion Lewis comes over. That gives them a different type running back to go with Henry now. Benny Logan comes in on the defensive side, and Kevin Pamphile comes in on offensive guard. They lose Matt Castle, Brandon Whedon, and Avery Williamson, and Eric Decker signed with New England this week. DeMarco Murray retired. Sylvester Williams signed in Detroit. So they lost, quite a few people from that team. Now they still have, quality guys that you would want to have around. You still have Marcus Mariota. You still have last year's pick, the receiver Corey. God, his name is escaping me right now. We'll get to it in a minute. You bring over Malcolm Butler. You have Logan Ryan. You have Adoree Jackson on the defensive side of the ball. You have Hurst. You have Dickerson. David King comes back again, like we were saying. Wormsley's there. Got much younger quickly for that side of the ball. You bring in a Brittany Logan to give you some veteran, some Jarrell Casey, guys like that. So a solid defense. You have Kevin Bayard on the back end, one of the top safeties in the league right now. You have a solid offensive line, nothing at the guard position to write home about. Wesley Woodyard's still there to help out the defense, but he's getting older. Jayon Brown, Will Compton at linebacker, Darren Bates, Nate Palmer, Derek Morgan, guys like that. So you have some pieces, right? It's a young team. Arakpo's still there. Conklin's going to move forward again this year and take that next step as far as playing offensive line and being the leader over there. You have Dion Lewis to go with Derrick Henry, so you have something at the running back position. You bring in a Kenny Vaccaro. I thought they were going to bring in Eric Reed. Something happened. There were travel plans. Taylor Lewin, you just signed to his big contract to tackle. Second richest contract or most richest contract. Delaney Walker at tight end, pass catching guy, tough guy, leadership guy. So you have pieces there for the Tennessee Titans. Throughout the draft, they didn't really have that great of a draft. They bring in I like Rashawn Evans at linebacker. We'll see how he does. Harold Landry at edge. He'll primarily probably be used just as a spot guy to begin with. So some talent, but we'll see how it develops onto the NFL level. Coaching staff, Mike Vrabel's moving into his next year there with Tennessee. You still have the same coordinators there, Matt LaFleur and what's the defensive guy's name? Dean Pease. So consistency there for the Titans as far as that goes. Key games, stretches week 2 through 4. You have Houston, Jacksonville, and Philadelphia. You can't go 0-3 there. They have to pull something out. Week 9 out of the bye, they have the steal. They could steal in Dallas. That would be a nice one to pick up because New England is the week after that. I see him going 8-8. The Colts, hey, they have Andrew Luck back. Great. They still don't have much of a team. I'd like to say, hey, what about this guy and this guy? T.Y., he fell off. Maybe he gets better as Andrew Luck develops. Maybe Eric Ebron gives him a little something. They bring him over in free agency. We'll have to see. They re-sign a Christian Michael. They bring in a Ryan Grant to add some into the receiver room. They lose Davis, Bostic, Gore, Mingo, Moncrief. They lost more than they brought in. As far as their draft, Quentin Nelson is huge. I think he's going to be great, barring any serious injuries that set him back. I like Braden Smith, the guard they got in round 2. I think he eventually does play. He's going to add backup for now. But after that, it seems like they tried to get... I don't know what they tried to do. I really don't understand their draft outside of Quentin Nelson, but why wouldn't you take Quentin Nelson at that pick if he drafted to you? Or, I mean, he fell to you. Frank Reich, I'm interested to see how he's going to be as a head coach. He was always kind of that underdog comeback kind of a guy. I'm not even going to try and pronounce their defensive coordinator's last name, so we'll just call him Coach Matt. Nick Sirianni is their offensive coordinator, but Frank Reich probably heavily involved there. New coaching staff all around. Well, not all around, but mostly with his touch on it. Robert Mathis comes on probably just to work with the pass rushers, and a guy like Harold Landry to help him, really transition to the NFL game. Key games for the Colts, every division game. You got to get as many of those as you can. Stay close. Week 3 through 5, you have Philadelphia, New England, and Houston. Again, you can't lose all 3 of those if you want to have a quality season. However, I see the Colts going 4-2. The Jags, probably the most solid team in the division. If we went down their roster, it would look like a Pro Bowl roster. So who'd they lose? Who'd they get? Well, they were able to keep Marquise Lee, so that's good. He gives them that wide receiving core some toughness. They bring in Don Carey, a DJ Hayden, a Dante Moncrief, who's going to be big for them. Andrew Norwell comes in from Carolina to add another piece to that offensive line that blocked so well for Leonard Fournette last year. So all of a sudden, there's a good team getting much better. Their draft was pretty good as well, if you look at their draft. For a team that didn't need a lot, right? You got to remember that. Taven Bryan, okay, he's a rotational piece. Probably end up taking Fowler's spot as he seems to be falling out of favor. You throw a DJ Shark who doesn't have to play right away. Maybe he's a special teams guy. You give him a shot there in the second round. Ronnie Harrison, again, this is a team where now they're drafting depth. They don't have to draft a lot of starters because they got themselves there. Leon Jacobs out of Wisconsin in round 7. Let's see what he can do. Tanner Lee, the quarterback out of Nebraska, in 6. Okay, we're a run defensive team. Not important to get a high round draft pick quarterback for us. Coaching staff relatively the same. Key games for Jacksonville, week 2 at New England. You want to be the big dog, right? Well, now you got to go show it this season when you play the big dogs. So New England, week 2. Philadelphia, week 8. Week 11 against the Steelers, and I think it could come down to Week 17, possibly against Houston for that division. I see them going 12-4. Now, I don't see Houston going 12-4. I have Houston going 10-6. I'll just get that out there now. But Deshaun Watson is back. They have DeAndre Hopkins. Watt is going to be healthy. Clowney is healthy, at least currently. So they have all of their pass rushers back. They re-signed Jonathan Joseph, 12th season. You could tell last year, a couple years, he's actually been getting a little long in the tooth, but a good veteran leader. They bring in Johnson Betamosi, who's now been around the league a little bit. They bring in a special teams receiver and a guy like Sammy Coates. They get Aaron Colvin, who come over from Jacksonville, who's going to give them some toughness at that cornerback position. A Tyrann Mathieu, he re-signs as a guy who's going to be that 1 year there right now in Houston. So I like that Tyrann Mathieu pick. That is going to, on the back end of that defense, I'm telling you what, I really like that for Houston. Houston's draft. Trying to get through everybody here, guys. Houston's draft. I like the pick, safety Justin Reed out of Stanford. That's really the pick that I like the most for them. Their first pick in the draft, which wasn't until round 3, so it's hard to have a lot of good picks after that. Coaching staff, relatively the same. Key games, Philly and Jags to end the season. You got to get one of those, in my opinion. Week 8, Miami. They're right between the Jacksonville and Denver. Don't let that be a trap game with those two teams right there. New England and Tennessee on the road to start. You really don't want to start 0-2. And again, I have Houston going 10-6. So that is my AFC South predictions, how I see it going. Houston, honestly, I could see them winning this division. A couple of things here and there, either way for Jacksonville. If they have some letdown games, I think Jacksonville is going to try and step up and be the big dog this year. They're going to try and take out the best teams, not have letdowns against teams they're supposed to beat. I think Houston's going to be in that wild card mix. Well, I expect them to, as long as Deshaun Watson stays healthy. He doesn't have to do what he was doing last year, just stay healthy. And I think they'll be right there in the mix for sure. Other news coming out of the NFL right now, the Eagles have extended Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson. Congratulations for winning that Super Bowl. You are now employed even longer, sirs. And then I want to finish with my disappointment in EA Sports and what's going on with Colin Kaepernick and his song being bleeped out. I saw a video where the character was actually blocked out. I don't know how much of this is real, intentional, racist, or what, but this man is to be commended. We stand for him. I can't believe the disrespect that he is getting for choosing right, for sacrificing for right. Sacrificing and doing for others all of a sudden is a problem in this country. Why? We kneel with Colin Kaepernick. We stand for the same causes as he stands for. Equal treatment. A justice system that is not one-sided. That does not murder innocent people. Or people who have committed crimes that don't deserve to be shot and killed. Or choked out. So if this is connected, great. Use it in your case. I hope he can use it in his case, because that was a bunch of ridiculous bull. And I highly doubt now that I will ever buy another EA game. I'll see where this goes. My views might change, but I'm very disappointed right now. Colin Kaepernick is doing an amazing job and has sacrificed what his dream was to do so for others, because he saw something that was wrong and wants to make it right. Till next time, you know how we do. Just be real.
Yo, who balls iller than all lyrics and song killers? I dissolve niggas with fireballs from the jaw spilling. No hard feelings, but y'all niggas is all filler. Rip apart buildings and standing taller than God Schiller. A full verbal assault drilling the bar villain. No absorbing in my mind, solving the God's willing.
Formulate the flow with finessing in the highest fashion. The fire burning in my soul, my spirit's everlasting. Feel the wrath, you rappers don't even stand a chance. Crushing everything in our path just like an avalanche. So resounding, the flow is sounding, so picture perfect blood, sweat and tears. Promise you that the shit is worth it.
My word's perfect, it never verse is the worst murder. Now I'll probably burn up a fire, take it to church service. It's closed curtains for whack rappers who lack purpose. You should stop your rapping and put your act in a fat burger. Cause